Okay, everyone, so welcome to Action Kit. I'm going to be doing this demo in our demo instance so that we're not messing with any of your pages. But just so you know, this is approximately what Action Kit is going to look like. Across the top, you will have different tabs that can take you to different sections in Action Kit, and all of those tabs are color coordinated. So throughout this training, we're going to basically cover the tabs in order, including pages, which is what I'm going to talk about, and then Tanya is going to take mailings, reports, users, staff, and a little bit about support. So to get started, let's go to pages. And feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions, but otherwise I will kind of plow through the broad strokes of what you need to know to use Action Kit pages. So to give you an orientation to the Pages tab, and this is approximately the way that all of the tabs in Action Kit work. You have ways to filter existing tabs or existing pages, excuse me. So you can see the pages that have been recently edited. You can see new pages. And then on the side, you have actions that you can take. In the middle, you can see a listing of that item. So in this case, it's pages, but in mailings, it would be different mailings. And at the very bottom, you can get an index of all of the recently updated pages, and you have more options for filtering there. In Action Kit, we have several different types of pages, and this is a list of the different page types. We're going to focus on petition pages because they are the most straightforward, both for setup and also for users, but the principles that you use to set up a petition page can be used across a bunch of different page types. I'm also going to show you a little bit of how page types look for different Action Kit clients and what different page types mean. So we're going to start with petition pages. This is a one petition, and you can fill out your information, and that means that you're signing this petition. For international groups, many have also implemented features like this for GDPR compliance. So making sure that that your users have actually consented to receive information from you. We're also going to cover survey pages, which look like this. And in survey pages, the focus is on the questions that you're asking. Call pages, another type of call pages, and then we also have things like letter to the editor pages. So let's get started with a petition page. When you're starting a page, you will either start with a model, which has settings pre-filled, including often page tags, specific ways that you want to have a page set up, or you can create a blank page. So to create a page from scratch, go to Add Page and create a petition page. The title is going to be the headline, and then the short name is pre-filled, but that's going to be the slug at the end of the URL, so this part. Notes are only administrative, so you can use that to differentiate between multiple pages that have similar headlines. And tags are a way that you can group pages together for reporting purposes. Also, when a user takes action on a page with a tag, that tag is added to the user's record. So if this page is tagged issue wildlife and then a user takes action, that user will then have a 1 next to issue wildlife. So you'll be able to see that that user has taken action on pages like targets are both built-in and custom. So we have a variety of targets that you can use out of the box, especially around the US, and then you can create your own targets as needed. And those target groups could be legislative target groups that filter within the US. So for example, if you want to target a particular representative, you could do that. You can also create custom target groups, and we'll go into that a little bit more later. Custom target groups give you a lot more flexibility, especially for international campaigns where we don't have as many built-in targets available. When you're putting in a target, that is saying that you are getting people who are constituents of that target to send a mailing. So in the case of this target group, you're saying if only this target group is available, then only people who have that target as their member of Congress will be sending petition signatures to him. That's especially relevant on call pages where if the target group, if there isn't an available target for that person, they won't be able to take action. OneClick Signing is a feature that we have to streamline your workflow and to make it easier for, specifically for constituents coming in from mailings to take action. OneClick Signing, like many features in the Action Kit admin, has a little blue dotted underline here. And there you can see that there's helper text reminding us to set recognized users to one time or to never. If you have always recognized users, then people coming in from mailings, if they forward that mailing to their friend, they'll end up with multiple signatures, even if they didn't intend to. And goals, putting in a goal gives you a thermometer. I'm going to take a quick pause and show you what user recognition looks like. So user recognition is important both for OneClick Signing and in this recognized users area. So instead of pre-filling all of your information, for example, having your name show up here, we want to shield users' private information in case they forward the link to a friend. So instead of having their full address and their zip code and their email address show up, you just have a little box right here that says, if you aren't whoever the user is, click here. User recognition for petition pages will just show that box instead of, for example, right here. And then you'll be able to click Add My Name. For call pages, it works a little bit differently, and we'll look at that in a second. The way that user recognition works is when you send out a mailing, the mailing links include a link right here. Include an Action Kit ID, and that Action Kit ID is linked to the user account. And so that Action Kit ID says, okay, this is the person's information that I'm going to fill in here. So when you send out the mailing, that's when recognition happens. It is also possible to set up multilingual options where you can have multiple petitions that are related to the same campaign. So you could say, tell EU leaders to end poverty, and then you would have an English version of the page, a French version of the page, a German version of the page. They would all be related to the same multilingual campaign, and you would be able to report on them together. In advanced options, you can see which email list you want to subscribe people to, how you want to recognize users, and here are the options. So always we'll recognize a user every single time. Once we'll recognize a user the first time they take action with recognition turned on. So for example, the first time they take action on that particular page with their particular email address. So the next time someone comes to that page, they'll get a blank form. In general, we recommend using once as the recognition mode, because then if a user takes action from email and then they forward that email to their friends, the next friend to get the email will see a blank form. That means that your users won't accidentally take action on the same page multiple times when it's actually their friend taking action, and that can help with your list growth so that other folks can see the blank form and know that they need to fill in their own information rather than accidentally using their friends. In some cases, you'll want to allow multiple responses, whether it's a petition that you want people to be able to sign multiple times, or a survey that you send out periodically, but you may have the same folks taking the survey over and over. If you have allow multiple responses unchecked, it's basically like letting people overwrite their responses, but checking allow multiple responses sets it up so that they can have each response recorded separately as an action in their record. In general, you'll want to leave include in reports of member actions turned on. There are some cases, for example, if you're doing an upload, but there are some cases where you'll want to turn that off, and there's more helper text to help you understand whether that's going to be something you'll want to do. Custom page fields are a way that you can change the behavior of a page without completely using an entirely different look and feel. One custom page field that we have built in is a featured image. So when you add a featured image to a page, it'll automatically show up. It depends on how your template set is configured, but often the featured image will show up here or somewhere on the left. Many groups also have more custom page fields. A common one is to have submit text, so that instead of add my name, you can configure it so that the submit text would be sign here, for example. The custom page fields are configured across the organization, and so look at the custom page fields that are available for your organization and see what's going to make sense for your page. But often, if you have two pages that are behaving slightly differently, custom page fields are going to be the way that you do that. Okay, we're going to move on. Are there any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So now we're on the main content page. The content screen is where you edit basically all of the text that shows up for your constituents. Template sets are something that you probably won't touch that often, but so you know, template sets are the way that all of these different organizations have changed the look and feel of their pages. So ActionKit provides the basic content management system and provides the basic functionality, and then all of the look and feel, the reason that these all look a little different is because of template sets. So if you have a microsite or if you have pages that look radically different than the rest of your site, often a template set will be the way that you do that. You can use host outside action kit as a checkbox, and that'll give you the HTML to copy and paste into an external site. Often if you're using, especially a microsite, you can use host outside of action kit to embed an action kit page directly into that site rather than having it show up with your primary URL. Okay. So I'm going to compress this side so that you can see how the petition pages show up. So the statement lead-in is going to be this element here. The statement text is what you're asking your members to sign, and the about text is the description of the petition. Thank you will show up after people have already taken action. We have a wide set of user form fields that you can use to gather information about your constituents. So in this form, you would see full name is required, which you can tell because of the little star, but also because it's getting mad at me because I haven't filled in that information. It's not requiring the street address. It's not requiring the state. It is requiring a zip. And it is requiring a country. In addition to the fields that are built into ActionKit, you'll also have custom user fields. Custom user fields are information about the user themselves. So it might be an external ID, it might be long-standing information that will change infrequently and where you don't need to track the changes. So for example, the Razor's Edge ID. For some user fields, a range of user basically recognition options again. And those are, those are going to be in the support tab. And so I'm going to just grab support really quick. I apologize that I don't have that up. Okay, so here's a quick look at the ActionKit manual. The ActionKit manual has a pretty extensive set of documentation. So here's what I'm looking for on user form fields. There are a range of recognition modes here. So basically what we're talking about is different fields can show up different ways depending on whether the user is recognized and whether they already have information filled in for that field. So there are a few different modes. If needed is going to be based on whether the target requires that field. So that'll often be street address, city, state, zip, or postcode. Visible only shows up if the user is not recognized. So visible will show up for unrecognized users or new users coming in. It won't show up at all if the user is recognized. That can be a pitfall. So if you're expecting people to be having a response for a particular field and you're not seeing it, check that the field is visible. Visible if blank will show up if the user is will show up if the user is recognized, and will only show up if there is no value in that field. So if you want a field for a phone number, if the user hasn't filled in a phone number yet, then visible if blank might be the way to do that. Visible always will show up every time, regardless of the user is recognized. So if you want to make sure that that phone number is the absolute most current phone number, you may use visible always so that users re-enter their phone number every time. Required will, if you have a recognized user, but that user doesn't have a particular field in, it'll blank out the form and they'll get an unrecognized form. And then always required is similar to required in that it requires a value for the field, but it will let you keep the form recognized. So you'll keep this, but then it'll add a blank field below that. And this documentation is much more thorough than what I just described, and it's going to be in the Action Kit documentation under Campaigner's Guide, Pages tab, Shared Features, User Form Fields. The other piece that you can add to a user form is a custom action field. We're going to talk more about custom action fields in surveys, but basically custom action fields are specific to that one action. So where a custom user field is about the user themselves and changes don't need to be tracked, custom action fields are about that action. So if it's a yes, I want to sign up to volunteer for this, or my favorite pet is a cat, or there are a range of ways that you can do this, but think of it more like a survey. For both custom user fields and custom action fields, you can use a range of different input types, so choose the one that makes sense for your question. Custom action fields, unlike custom user fields, can only be visible, and always required. That's because the custom action field is related to the page that they're taking action on, and so it's not going to be something that one value is valid over and over again. Whereas with a custom user field, once you have their Razor's Edge ID or whatever it is, that value is going to be good for that user over a long period of time. So what just happened is I didn't fill out the information that Action Kit requires. You can see with the asterisk that some information is required. So to you and poverty. Okay, so we're always going to require statement text, which makes sense because if they're signing a petition, they need to be signing something. We don't require about text, but we do recommend it. This is some info about the petition. Thanks for signing. And we also require thank you text. The thank you text does appear on the next screen. Before I move on, just so you know, all of these windows or all of these boxes have a few different code editor modes. So you can use code, which will give you HTML, plain, which won't do the same coloration, or visual. Visual is a what you see is what you get editor, and you can use, as you would expect, the buttons to change your formatting and to add different styles. There are a few ways that you can add images into any of these sections. I would not recommend adding images into the statement text because that's a little unexpected for how people read petitions. But for the about text, for example, you can click to insert an image, including uploading. You can use the featured image that I showed on the previous screen, or you can drag an image into the box. We also have the option of snippets here that I'll show more on the call page. Snippets are little pieces of code that you can use kind of like you would use merge fields in Word, and they fill in information about the user, the targets of the page, and other information. Okay, I'm going to head over to the next page screen unless anyone has any questions. Cool. Okay, so now we're on the after action screen. So on the edit content screen, we did fill in the text that people would see after they took action. So that's the thank you text. By default, we fill in a URL here in the redirect URL so that the thank you text shows up on the screen after the user has taken action. Sometimes, however, you will want to redirect people to a secondary ask. So if they start on a petition page, you may want them to then make a phone call, or you may want to send them to a different page altogether that's outside of ActionKit. So I could use any URL I wanted in the entire world. I don't want any of this other information, so I don't want an ActionKit ID in the redirect page. But I can copy this letter to the editor, and after the user takes action on this petition page, they'll get redirected to the letter to the editor page. Because the user has already taken action on the petition page, and I'm redirecting them to another page, if it's within my own ActionKit instance, they'll be recognized on that page. Then we have the confirmation email. By default, we have confirmation emails set up. This is an organization by organization decision. You can easily turn off confirmation emails or turn them back on. We do have a default from line set up, and then you just put in the subject, and you can again use snippets to say, for example, thanks for writing. User's name. Now will you share this petition? And because they've taken action on this page, I can fill in the page's URL. So this confirmation will send as soon as the person takes action. You can enable telefriend widgets, and that will put code on the thank you page, which we'll see in a second. So I just started writing thanks for writing, but that's more appropriate for the confirmation email because the confirmation email will go to the person who took action. The telefriend widget would be more like, will you join me? And this is text that's coming from the user to one of their friends. You can also customize sharing here. You can upload a sharing image directly. It will pre-fill the featured image, and you can change the text that's going to be showing on Facebook and on Twitter. Finally, we have notification emails. You can send notifications based on either reporting about the page overall or based on particular actions. So some built-in notifications that we have set up are notify every 1,000 and send in honor of. So you may send those to a particular staff member. You can also create your own notifications, like a new volunteer. And it can go to a particular email address or staff member. And you can fill in any information that the user submitted on the page, or, again, lots of information about the user. Most often you'll use notifications to notify staff internally, but you can also use it in more complex ways, like creating a receipt that's used globally across your organization. Our delivery options are emailing targets and communicating with Congress. Communicating with Congress is not set up within the one instance. Emailing targets is available for targets where we have an email address. One way that some groups, including ONE and FCNL, use this emailing targets is actually for an internal contact us page. So you can see the target group is actually an internal support form. And then when you get to delivery, you're emailing that target and you're sending that email immediately. So there are a few different options for how frequently you email targets. Immediate then batch will send the first 30 emails individually, and then it'll send daily. Batch only will only send daily, and immediate only will send every single time a user emails. This can get a little spammy, so it's important to be really careful with it. However, for internal notification emails, that's really appropriate. If you do want to use immediate only, you have to check all of these because we really want to make sure that you're being intentional if you use immediate only. And then you can fill in the information that you want your internal staff to get. Okay. So if you don't use email targets, there are a few ways that you can, if you don't have either of these selected, there are a few other ways that you can deliver your information. You can create mailings to do delivery to the target. So you can send a mailing to, for example, all of the targets at once, basically, and there's a box that you can check in mailings to do that, and mailing targeting to do that. You can also do in-person petition deliveries or send delivery of petitions or something like that to your own contacts in a site, and I'll show you the way that you can get the PDFs to do that in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to view this on the site. Okay, so this is how it all appears. And then this is the thank you text, which I wrote in. And then this is the Tell a Friend widget that you saw earlier.